Back to this video where we will actually start designing our own application. Okay, so the application that we will look at today will basically ask the user to enter a South African ID number. So we're going to add or enter in a South African ID number, and you can see that this picture that I got from the web that basically explains the South African ID number and which digit means what is the one that we will use in order to create this application. In this application, the user will then type the ID number, and we will show the user what is his date of birth, whether he's male or female, and whether it's a South African citizen or not. So basically, we're going to use this picture. You can get this picture online as well by just going and searching for South African ID number explained, and you'll get something like this. So we're going to look at this picture later on. So let's create a new application. So I'm going to go to Start a New Android Studio Project, and we will call this project let's just call it Magic ID Application. We're going to leave the company domain as it is. We will not include any support there. And then we're going to develop for phone and tablet. Let's use it as 4.4 there. We're going to use the empty activity. We will leave it as the main activity there. We can go and change that one to main_activity without any spaces. So I'm going to change it to main activity, make sure it's backwards compatible, and we're going to say finish. All right, so let's just wait for the project to sync and get everything up and ready for us, and then we will start with the application. Right, so our application is ready, and we will start building the app. So for now, I'm going to leave the main activity and just close down the main activity Java file. And we're going to work on this video in the main activity XML, basically designing how the app will appear to the user, or how this first screen of our application will appear to the user. Now, first thing that we need to do is to go into the text tab at the bottom, and then just change the Android support constraint layout. For now, we're going to work with a linear layout. So make sure that it auto completes there, and you see as you're typing there at the top, it's also typing at the bottom the closing tag. So just make sure that your opening and your closing tag are exactly the same. So we're going to say linear layout, and you can see at the bottom and the top it's the same. And then for this linear layout, we need to add an orientation. So you can just start typing orientation, and we set the orientation to vertical. I will get to that now. So let's just remove this text view also, so that we basically just have a blank linear layout as the root layout. Then go to the Design tab, and you should have nothing on the screen right now. In the component tree, you should see the linear layout that's vertical. Now, vertical linear layout means that every component that I place on the screen now will be vertically aligned and will be linear, which means that if I place a button there, it's going to be the button. If I place another button there, it's going to be directly underneath it. So it's going to stack them vertically. But there's a few changes that we can make in the linear layout. Okay, so we're going to start off with this application, and we're going to go to text there, and we're going to use a plain text, or let's just use a number there. So we're going to use a number field there, and the reason why we have different types of edit text now, these edit texts are basically a space where the user can enter some data, and we can get some data from the user. And remember, for this application, we want to ask the user for the ID number. And because it's going to be a number only, that's why I need to take this one that says number. And the reason behind this is that if I would choose a plain text one for the user to just type the number, that will also work. But when the keyboard pops up for the user to type, it will show the full keyboard, where in fact we only need the number keyboard. So in order to make this easier for the user, it's better to use the number one here, so the number edit text. And this number edit text will then only pop up the number keyboard. And this also makes error correction a bit easier. So at least now you'll know that the user will only be able to enter numbers. He cannot, for example, enter his name and then we try to extract something from his name. Okay, so we're going to use a number edit text. So you can just drag in the edit text to the screen, and you'll see it becomes the very first item inside of your linear layout. Now it's going to give you some problem there. They say it's missing accessibility label, provide either a view with a label for that reference or whatever, or we should have a hint there. So we're going to do the hint property. So we'll get to that part now. So this is the first component that we want to have, and if you click on the component, you'll see that we've got attributes that we can set for this component. So for this component, if you click on it, we want to go and set the margins a bit so that it's not totally against the sides there and also not against the top. So we're going to go into the layout margin, and I'm going to set the left margin, let's use a 15 there, as well as the right margin 15, and you can see it's a DP, device pixels. And then also I want to have one at the top. So let's make the one at the top also 15. So it moved down my edit text, or where the user can type some data. You can see it's called an edit text in Android. Right, so there's the edit text now. That looks fine. We'll get to the hint property now. So let's just first drag in a button. So I'm going to drag the button from there, also just underneath that one. And you can see in the linear layout, that's vertical. As soon as you start dragging and dropping, it will vertically place them into your layout. So in this case now, this is a button. You can see it's called a button, just a normal button. So for this button, let's do the same layout. Now for this layout margin, we had 15, 15, and 15. So let's try and do the same thing there. On the left, 15. On the right, 15. And let's make the top 10. Okay, so you can see they're basically now the same size because they've got the same margins. Okay, so now this is the edit text where the user will type something. When he clicks on the button, we want to show him now some information. So for now, to just show simple information, I'm going to use a text view, and that's basically what you call a label in some other programming languages. So this is just a normal label, which we call a text view in Android. So for this text view, we can also go to the layout margin property. So make sure it's clicked. On the left, we can also have 15 again. On the right, 15 again. And then at the top, let's make it 10 again. So that text view will then be what the result will be after the guy has entered his ID number. So now if you zoom in a bit, this is how your layout should look like. Okay, so for now, in order to change the text that I want to display here, and that's mostly why we have these comments here. And remember, these comments is not a real error. You don't need to handle them for your application to run. If you run it now, you'll see the application works. If there's red errors, yes, then we have some trouble and we need to handle those errors. But for these are just hints or comments for you to better your application. Okay, so we're going to address this in any case. So let's get to the edit text. Now, remember, when we ask a user to enter something, we either need to have a label at the top or a text view then in order to tell the user what to do and what to type here, or we can have a hint property. So if you click on the edit text and go to attributes and you scroll down a bit, you can see that there's a hint property. So in the hint property, I can go and type, please enter ID number. Okay, don't click enter there because it's going to take that one. So just make sure you out of the autocomplete there, and then you can enter. And you can see it says the hint now, please enter the ID number. But still, it's got a problem there. It says that this is a hard-coded string. So we're gonna fix that problem also now. Right. So now that we have the hint, let's try and center the hint in the middle of the screen. So for this, we need to go to the gravity properties. So you can see that there's a gravity, a normal gravity, and there's a layout gravity. So now the layout gravity basically moves the component inside of the layout, whereas your normal gravity moves the text inside the component, or whatever you have inside of the component. So just to illustrate this quickly, I'm going to set you see the width for this component is to match the parent, which means it's the same width as your linear layout, which is basically the whole screen's width. So now we can change that width to wrap content. You don't have to do that now. I'm just trying to explain something now. So you're going to set that to wrap content, which makes this specific component as small as possible, that it still contains everything that's in it. So you can see it's a lot smaller now. But now let's say we want to center this inside of the layout. So for that, we'll need to go to the layout gravity. And if I now say center it horizontally, you can see it's centered horizontal inside of the layout. So it's the whole component that moves to the center. So what I'm going to do next is to just go and change this back to matching the parent. So we have the whole thing. So if I just want the content that's inside of the edit text to be centered, I will use the normal gravity property. So there's the gravity property, and I'm going to set this to center horizontal, and you can see now it's centered horizontally, and that's what we want to do here. So it's up to you how you want to set up your layout. So the normal layout gravity one, this layout gravity moves your component within the layout, and your normal gravity one, this one that just says gravity, it's the one that we actually use now, will move whatever is inside of your component to be centered horizontally or vertically or to the left or to the right. So I can move that and say, no, I want this whole thing to be on the right hand side or whatever. So for this example, we're going to keep it as centered horizontally. Right, so now the ID number is fine. If we zoom in a bit, you can see please enter the ID number. We've got the button, and then we have the text view. So for the text view also, if you want to have it in the middle of the screen, you can just also say, go to the gravity property and set it to center horizontal, and it will be like that. So I'm going to leave this one on the left. That's fine. So now for the next part, we're just going to have a quick look at the string resources that they are moaning about here. They on all three, they say it's hard-coded strings. Please do not do that. And the reason behind that is for every hard-coded string that you have, for example, this one, if I go into the text property quickly, or the text tab at the bottom, you can see that I have the text there hard-coded as please enter ID number. So for that, or for Android, that is a problem because it cannot translate hard-coded text. So if you want to use a translation, and that's why I say you can ignore this if you really do not want to reuse this, or you do not want to add this to your translations, then you can ignore these hard-coded string comments. But if you want to go and apply this, you will see that there's a strings XML. So under your resources folder, under values, you'll go to strings XML, and you can see this is where your string resources will lie. And basically this strings XML file will be the file that you can use to do your translations. So I'm going to go into the main activity again, go into the text part, and if I click on my hard-coded text and you use Alt-Enter, or just Alt, let me just see, Alt-Enter. If you use Alt-Enter, you can see that it says extract the string resource. So if I click on that, it gives me what should be the resource's name. So let's just call this one hint underscore ID. The resource value, this will now be the hard-coded text where we said please enter the ID number. You can see it's automatically typed there for you. The set must be main, that's fine, and the name must be string in the strings XML, and its values, we're just going to say okay. So what happened now is your text gets replaced by an @string and then the ID for that string. And you can see now in your strings XML, that's the ID for your string or the name for the string, and this is the text that it will contain. So another way for us to actually do this is to go and hard-code it here also. So I'm going to, let's just call this one hint ID, let's say 2, and then close it. Please enter ID number 2, just as an example. So I can hard code it here as well. I can directly come in here in the strings XML and type it here as well. So now in the main activity, if I want to use that, I can go to design. You can see now in the hint, we've got this. So I can click on the 3 dots there, and you can see there's my 2 IDs. There's hint ID for the name and hint ID 2. So if I choose that one and say OK, I'll have the second one's text. So for this example now, I'm going to remove this, and we will just keep this one that says hint ID. So I'm going to go back there, click on the 3 dots, and choose that one again. Right, and now you can see that that hint or that comment is gone because now it is inside of your strings XML. And if you do a translation, copy this file into another translation, you can just go and change the text, and the text will be used wherever you use this name. That's called hint ID. Okay, so let's do the same for the button. We can just say something like submit there for the button. So what I normally do is to go to the text property of the button. That's the text that's on the button. And I'm going to change the text to, let's just call it submit. And click away. And you can see there's the text is now submit on the button. But still it wants this hard-coded string submit to be also in the strings XML. So again, you can just go to your text tab at the bottom. Wherever you've typed the hard-coded text, Alt-Enter, extract the resource, call it whatever you like, and please remember that everything inside of the resources folder, whether it's a layout file, whether it's a picture file, doesn't matter. Everything must be lowercase, and you may use the underscore. So the resource name will be submit, the value, that's the text it will display, it will actually be submit, and the rest you can leave as it is. And you can see now it replaced it with an add string submit, which means it goes to the strings XML, and there's a name called submit, and it will show this text submit. So now if you go back to design, you can see that the comment there to the hard-coded string is now gone. Android Studio is happy. Now for this last text view, you can see that it also says hard-coded text, but I do not want to translate the text view there. We're going to set this one with new text. So I'm not going to change any text there. I'm going to leave it as it is. What you can do is to have a default value here inside of your strings XML, and that will show. But the user will not ever see text view there. We will change it in coding to whatever the result will be of the ID number. Right, so hopefully you're fine with the strings XML now. So please make sure that in all your applications you try to add as many of your text inside of the strings XML by just Alt-Enter. So the next thing that we want to look at before we complete this video is to quickly have a look at how can we do a colors scheme or something that will help me with my colors in my application. So you can see that we've got this blue type of template here. So where you change this is in your colors XML. So again, under resources, values, colors XML, you will see your different colors. So they gave us here the color primary and the primary dark and the color accent. And you can see that your primary and your primary dark is the colors then that we use here. Your dark color there at the top, and this is your primary color. So if you change the colors in your colors XML, you are essentially going to change how it looks at the top there also. So let's quickly do this. And for that, I'm just going to open up Firefox there. You can go to the following website that will help you with colors. So it's www.materialpalette.com, and you'll get to a page that looks like this. So here you basically choose two colors. So I'm going to go with two colors. Let's go way out here. Let's take a blue there, and I'm going to take, or let's take indigo. Let's take indigo and pink, for example. So you'll see it gives you an overview of how your app will display. Let's remove the blue there totally. Let's go with a deep orange. That's too much. Let's take a normal orange and a lime. Okay, so this looks good. So we'll have an orange at the top, a darker one. This is the lighter version, the normal primary color, and this is an accent color then. This is how your edit text, if you remember, well, when we run the app, I'll show you. But basically, when the app runs, you can see that on an edit text, this little line there underneath the edit text will be the accent color. So choose your colors carefully. Right, so now we have a list of all the color codes there at the bottom. So you can see this is the dark primary color, that's the normal primary color, the light primary color, the accent color, the primary text, and so forth. And if you go to download, you can download the XML file with all the colors. The easiest way is to just go into this part at the bottom and copy your colors. For example, if I want to get the dark primary color, I just click on it and it's now copied to your clipboard. So now let's go back to Android Studio I'm going to go into the colors XML and I copied the dark color. So I'm going to change that hash code there with a new hash code, and you can see it changes to the orange. So let's go to the normal primary color, which is this one. Go back to Android Studio, and there's the primary color. Paste it, and you'll have the orange. Let's quickly do the accent color as well. Where's the accent now? This one. And we change the accent color also to the new accent color. Right, and now if you go back to your main activity, you'll see that it looks a bit different now. So we changed the color scheme. Okay, so let's say that we want to add some more colors here now. So you'll see in these colors, we've also got a primary light color. So I'm going to copy that color as the primary light, and let's add that color here. So I'm going to say color, let's call this one, you see their naming convention will be primary, dark, primary, whatever. So I'm going to say primary light, change it off or close it off, and then you'll have the light color there. And so you can go and add all of these colors if you want to use them. Let's say you want to make your text this text color and your secondary text must be this color and so forth. So you can go and add all of these text or all of these colors and use them in your application. Okay, so for now, let's go back to the main activity. So you can see my colors are listed. And what is the reason also behind the colors XML and the strings XML? It's basically for code reuse. So every time I want to use a color, I can use this exact color that is basically the theme of my application. So if I use the primary dark everywhere, I know it's going to be the same color. Right, then the strings XML also, this is code reuse. Every time where I want to ask the user for his ID number, for example, I can just refer to this hint ID. Right, so if we go back to the colors XML, we called this one now primary light. So what we can do then is to go and change some of these colors. So let's say we want to have the background now here, let's say the primary light color. So go into the text tab at the bottom, and we're going to add the background property there. So we're going to add background, and you can see there's your colors. It's color accent, primary, primary dark, primary light. So I'm going to go with primary light. Go back to design, and you can see now it nicely fits into the other two colors. Now let's say we want to make this color for the button also to be, let's say, the primary color or the primary dark color. So if you go into the text tab again and you go to button, you can do the same thing there. Set a background color for your button, and let's use it color primary. See how it looks. So there's the primary color, and you can now see the button is orange. Okay, so now let's say you wanted to have the text color on the button to be actually a white. So if you go down to the property, you can see that for your button, there's a text style. So for the style, let's make the style bold. And then you'll see there's a text color property. So for the text color property, you can also just click on the three dots, or you can start typing your color. So I'm going to use a hash 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Fs, which is a white. So that's the white color, and you can also change or add your white color inside of your colors XML and then refer to that color. So now the button looks a bit better. The text and so forth will still just display the normal black, but that's fine for now. Okay, so you can see then that you can use your colors XML in order to have your application look nice. Right, so this is basically it for this video. We've done the layout for this application that we want to use, and now the next step is to actually go and code what this application should do when the user types something in the edit text and clicks on the submit button. So I'll see you in the next video.